Hello, my friends, and thank you for tuning in to another episode of Weird Mythic Podcast. I know I only upload, once a month right now, but that could change maybe. So the world is going crazy, like crazy, it seems like. Biden did resign, and the week before that, someone tried to assassinate Trump. Now, I don't like to get political in my show, obviously. I haven't ever really talked about politics, if honestly, this might be the first time. However, the only thing I can say is I am glad that President Trump didn't pass, and I do hope the best for President Biden. It probably took a lot for him to resign out of the race. But with that being said, I really hope nobody tries to put Gavin Newsom into any more power than he's already in. He's been the governor of California for too long, and just don't think he's doing a good job at it. Don't think it would do good for, the rest of the country. Of course, that is my opinion. Who cares about my opinion, right? But that is all I could say political wise. Of course, if anybody has anything to ask questions about, I could try to give my best answers. I don't follow a lot, but what I do, I try to know as much as I can about it. And yeah, really, that's all I can say about that craziness with the people who are leading our country. So yeah. Has everybody seen the explosion on Yosemite or at Yosemite? Not on it. Sorry, that sounds bad. Horrible phrasing. But I think it was called Biscuit Bison or Biscuit Basin. One of the geysers poof, blew up and completely unexpected. But I was seeing videos of a new fault line that was headed its way to Yosemite about 3 weeks ago. And I haven't heard a whole lot on it. It's just like stuff that I've seen on TikTok and Instagram and shit. So I don't know what's going on there, but that is real scary considering Yosemite is a, super volcano. So that to look forward to if it gets any bigger. But in other news, something I think everybody should know, I read one of the best articles, I think it was last Thursday or Friday, in Washington State last week. There was two or three, I can't remember if it was two or three, but 2 to 3 11-year-old girls, and they were walking through their neighborhood. I think they were going to the ice cream man or something like that. And as they were walking to their destination, they saw a younger girl who was being tugged and pulled at from in a man, a full-grown ass adult. Something in these 11-year-old girls knew that something was wrong, crossed the street, and was able to get that little 6-year-old girl away from harm. That random man stranger was trying to kidnap the 6-year-old, and these three girls took action, and I can't clap and give my hats off and just standing ovation. Those girls, good job, girls. We need more of that all over. And some adults wouldn't even take action. So, like heroes, extremely brave, all of that to these 11-year-old girls for saving that 6-year-old kid's life. That girl, that it was extremely brave, and kudos and hats off to you. Thank you. Oh, I also want to say, hi, Eddie. I've been reading your emails, and mine have been kind of short, but I'm still reading them, that guy. So thank you for all your updates, and thank you for still listening, and of course, everybody for still listening for very little episodes and very short episodes, and I appreciate all of it. So please, if you do have anything to say, please send it to weirdmythicpodcast@gmail.com, and I will answer. So before I get into this week's episode or this month's episode, I want to thank my fellow podcasters for their continued support. And I have a trailer promo for everyone to listen to. It is Dead Letter. I have the link in the show notes. So please listen and support.
In a world where the ordinary meets the extraordinary, prepare to journey beyond the veil of reality to uncover secrets that defy explanation. Welcome to a Dead Letter podcast, where we delve into the mysterious and unexplained phenomena that have fascinated humans for centuries. In each episode, we will explore some of the most intriguing and spine-tingling aspects of the paranormal world. But beware, for the line between reality and the supernatural is thinner than you think. Will you dare to listen?
So this is another dragon episode, and this time we are going to visit Europe. I watched House of Dragon, and I've watched Game of Thrones. A lot. Just say a lot. All the way through multiple times. And growing up, my favorite part of Sleeping Beauty was actually the dragon that appears near the end when Aurora is sleeping, curling itself around the castle. Just thought it was really pretty. So those are the dragons that I'm most familiar with, and most of my dragon influence comes from. That was, of course, before starting the podcast. And because of the podcast and the bit of research that I have had to do, I've learned my favorite type of dragon are actually those from Asia and of the surrounding countries. I still need to do a part 2 for dragons in Asia, but those myths and legends are definitely my favorite so far. There seems to be 2 types of dragons in Europe. One type of dragon has wings, flies, breathes fire, lives in caves, near water, hoards treasure, and will eat maidens. So many maidens were sacrificed to these dragons. Scholars believe that those types of dragons were inspired by comets. There's a story from Northumbria from 793, and I will get into that story here in a bit. The other type of dragon in European myth are those without wings and sort of slither about the earth. They also live in caves or near water. They also hoard treasure and will also eat maidens. Many scholars believe that those type of dragons were inspired by findings of ancient reptile bones, maybe even dinosaurs. They could have even been exaggerations of just really large lizards that those people weren't used to seeing, so the only word they could relate it to was dragon. Illustrations and myths of dragons in Europe began in the Middle Ages. The 11th and 13th century was about the height and interest of dragons being real creatures, not just myths. Many dragon stories had a Christian undertone to it, usually associated with Satan. In 1260 CE, there was a manuscript of a modern, European dragon, an account, and it is one of the earliest accounts. I have it all on social media and in the show notes, so you can go ahead and check that out. The dragon is snake-like with 4 legs, 4 to 6 wings, and it spews fire. European dragons are seen as greedy, which is completely different from the Chinese dragons and those in Asia. The only thing that the European dragon seems to have in common with the Chinese dragons and Asian dragons are that they're associated with water. The European dragons are serpent-like, with 4 legs like lizards, adorned with bat-like wings, and very long tails. Now keep in mind that a dragon without its front legs, so it only has the 2 back legs, those are actually called wyverns. So I believe actually it's wyverns that are in Game of Thrones. So keep that in mind. I don't think I get into wyverns in this episode, but I do plan on at least touching it near the end of when I'm done with dragons, which I might have 3 or 4 more episodes to do. The dragons in this part of the world are seen as bad omens, while the dragons in Asia are known for good luck. The European dragons also breathe fire or have poisonous breath. Some of the dragons are depicted with feathers or some type of crest on its head or neck. Most, if not all, dragons in Europe are magic in their blood, and they're seen as ancient creatures of earth. Sometimes these dragons are protecting a castle or a cave full of treasures. Let's go ahead and get into some stories now, yeah? Now, the word dragon is all throughout European countries. In Latin and Greek, it is the word Draco, which means dragon. In Germanic myth, the word is translated to worm or snake. In Old English, the word worm, W-Y-R-M, translates to serpent, and worm, also W-Y-R-M, translates to dragon. In Finnish, it translates, the word worm, W-Y-R-M, translates to salmon or snake, or in some mountain towns in Finland, it also means fire snake. I put a link in the show notes from this website that shows you how they're all spelled, what they translate to, and which country they're from. So if you want to check that out, I got it in the show notes. But I will say that all of these words are so similar. They have the word D for the beginning of dragon, Draco. They also have that word worm, W-Y-R-M, which is in a lot of different languages and just different variations of it. But all of them describe dragons, or all of them translate to the word dragon. Northumbria is in the northern part of the UK, I believe. This story was, as I had said, this was actually written in 793. Sorry if I gave you a different date, but this was Northumbria, 793 CE. And this is the manuscript, like a written like journal or like log of an event that took over the skies. And no, of course, we don't have like any specific dates. It's just written down, and they know that it's 793 CE. The people in Northumbria, they saw sheets of lightning and fiery dragons were seen flying. After the sky cleared and the dragons left the skies, a famine started. Then there was a group of people who destroyed a church not long after the dragons appeared, and there was talks of committing murder. Then in about March of that year, so the dragon must have come pretty early or near the end of the previous year, maybe. I don't know. Well, it says 793, so, but it's in March of that year. Anyways, must have happened late. I don't know. Anyways, in March of that same year, after the dragon sightings, a man named Sugaar died. Sugaar was a nobleman who might have died by either suicide or he was murdered. Why either or, I'm not sure, but he was a nobleman and his name is spelled S-I-C-G-A, Sugaar. Now, I did want to mention the flag of Wales. It has a dragon on it, and if I remember correctly, it's like the oldest flag that is like still in use. They've had this flag much longer than any other country. Some countries will go through different flags and change them up. Not for Wales. The flag has the red dragon on it. It is believed that the red dragon has been used as a symbol for the Welsh since 655 CE. But the flag's earliest appearance in written accounts was actually in 1120 CE. So even the earliest accounts, there's some records somewhere, or they must have like found something similar with the red dragon before 1120. The red dragon represents the Welsh people, and the white dragon, or like the white on it, represents the English. And the dragon was a symbol of revolt against the English crown at one point. Now I'm going to be jumping around to different European countries, so I have no rhyme or reason. These are just the stories I found and I liked. Bulgaria. The dragons are male or female, and each have different views on humankind. The dragons of the different sexes are said to be siblings and represent different types of agriculture. The female dragon represents harsh weather, which means that she dislikes humans. The male dragon protects the crops from being destroyed by rain and bad weather, and therefore likes humans. These dragons are seen to be evil otherwise. They have 4 legs and have multiple heads. And it's kind of like the Hydra from Greek mythology, where if you cut the head off, another one's just going to grow right back, and then you have to double the heads. The only way that you can get the necks from not growing back is if you cauterize the neck as soon as you cut the head off. The Bulgarian dragons are not known for being the smartest, however. They do ask for tributes from small towns. They usually ask for maidens, or livestock, or gold. The dragons do not get their tributes. If the dragons do not receive their tributes, they'll just destroy the town that's nearby. In Polish folklore, the dragons are more of like a basilisk, but they have a dragon story from the 13th century. This story is known as the Wawel Dragon, W-A-W-E-L dragon. Wawel Dragon. This dragon lived in a cave under the Wawel Hill. This hill was located in King Krak's kingdom, or like his area. There is another name for King Krak, and it was King Crocus in Cracow. Those who lived on his land, including the king himself, had to help feed the dragon. The dragon was mainly given cattle to keep it from the towns and eating those who lived there. Other versions of the story state that only virgins were sacrificed. So we have 2 accounts. I don't know. But I told you, lots of maidens were sacrificed for to these dragons. We're just not destroying an entire town and kingdom. King Crocus decided to offer a prize to anyone who could kill the dragon. The person who could kill the dragon would marry his daughter and eventually inherit the crown. Now, many knights, of course, tried, and they were just eaten in the end. One day, however, a shoemaker named Scuba was able to outsmart the dragon. Scuba had taxidermied rams, but instead of using, whatever it is you normally use for taxidermy, he decided to use sulfur. So he stuffed sulfur into these rams. Scuba then put the sulfur stuffed animals into the dragon's cave and ran just far enough away. The dragon eventually came out of its cave and without hesitation ate these decoy rams. The sulfur started working and the dragon ran to the river and started trying to drink to get, his body to stop being on fire. But the sulfur didn't go out and burned the dragon from the inside. There are some legends that say that the dragon had 6 heads. So that's an interesting image to have a 6-headed dragon running to the water so that its insides didn't completely burn up. And then it ends up dying anyways from being burned from the inside out. There is a statue dedicated to the Wawel Dragon next to the Wawel Hill. And it's like near the Vistula River in Poland. I did like some Google Maps. I think it's less than like 2 hours from like everything. Or it's all right there on the river. In Spain, my favorite part of Europe, I love it. I love Spain. There is a winged serpent that lives in a cave. It keeps treasures and even nymphs as prisoners. There are also tales of a winged serpent in Cantabria. I can't pronounce things if you haven't noticed, guys. Other dragon myths are very unique. The Spanish dragon myths are very unique. There is a dragon known to mesmerize humans with one single look, kind of like Medusa. The dragon is in the Peña Uriel Mountains. In Basque myth, there is the legend of the last serpent. The last serpent is about the dragon named Sugaar. Sugaar is a dragon who is associated with storms and thunder, and he's depicted as a serpent or a dragon. In Basque myth, there is also a female dragon named Mari. She is in the mountains, and that is where Sugaar goes to create storms. Mari is a earth goddess, and her companion is Sugaar. Sugaar flies, but in the shape of a sickle or a crescent. Most of the stories believe that Sugaar was made of fire and will take the form of lightning. He does live underground and travels throughout the caverns throughout Spain. Something cute that I read, however, Sugaar and Mari have a Friday date night. Now, they will either fertilize the earth on that date night, or Sugaar just hangs out with Mari and plays with her hair and braids it. Cutest dragons ever. In Catalonia, Spain, the dragons are giant serpents with 2 legs and a pair of wings. Sometimes this dragon's face can look different, like different animals, like a bull or a lion, kind of like a chimera, which has been kind of a theme. I think it was in Africa. They had like kind of chimera dragons. The Catalonia dragons are also fire breathers. These dragons have a horrible body odor, though. The stench is so powerful that it pretty much kills anything within its like vicinity. In Barcelona, there is a famous female wyvern, and her name is Vibria. She is depicted with 2 breasts, claws, and an eagle beak. There is a Scottish myth about an ancient kingdom and dragons. In this ancient kingdom was a boy named Assipattle. Yes, Assipattle. Someone from Scotland, let me know if this is a real myth or not, because I did read it in a couple places. So, yeah. So, Assipattle, he had 6 brothers and 1 sister. They all worked on a farm, but Assipattle didn't do as much, or really, in some cases, just absolutely no work compared to his siblings. His brothers would pick on him and ostracize him at times because of his lack of effort. His sister was nice to him, though, and his sister ended up leaving the farm and was able to start working in the castle. One day, there was a sea monster, Mester Stoor worm. Mester, Mester, Stoor, Stoor, worm. Mester. He was the king of sea monsters, and he just started like wreaking havoc all along the shores and beaches of Scotland. Mester would take out an entire beach, towns, with one sweep of his tail or his tongue. His breath was poisonous and would kill any living things. The king of the land had asked for help from a wizard. This wizard told the king that in order to stop Mester Stoorworm, he would have to feed it 7 maidens every Saturday. I think it was every Saturday morning. Everyone in the kingdom helped to provide the maidens to be eaten on Saturdays. However, after weeks of sacrificing the maidens, Mester Stoorworm did not leave the shores and beaches. The king went back to the wizard. This time, the wizard had told the king that he must sacrifice his own daughter, the Princess Gem de Lovely. And this would help get Mester Stoorworm back to the ocean. Now, the king did obey, but he waited several more weeks before he had to get his daughter ready to be sacrificed. The king went all around his kingdom in search of a hero to kill Mester Stoorworm, so his daughter's life could be spared. The king promised to give a man who kills the monster would not only heir to his kingdom, but would be given the legendary sword Six Snapper, along with his daughter's hand in marriage, of course. Assipattle, hello, he's back, heard about the mission and immediately took his dad's best horse, grabbed a canister full of smoldering peat, and this stayed lit as he went to go kill Mester Stoor just took his dad's best horse without even asking. Now, as Assipattle rode up to the dragon on his horse, he saw the king, like, pretty much, like, starting to get up to the dragon. Like, he was going to fight it, try to slay it as himself at this point so he didn't have to sacrifice his daughter. Assipattle was able to stop the king from trying to attack the dragon, and he got onto a small boat, and when Stoorworm opened his mouth, Assipattle went directly into his mouth with his little boat and his, what was it, canister of smoldering peat. Assipattle was now in this little boat in the belly of this giant sea snake dragon creature. And now that he was inside this creature, he got out of his boat, found the dragon's liver, took a knife, slit into the dragon's liver, and stuffed it full of peat, which started a fire. Assipattle got his ass back into that boat and got the hell out of Dodge. Since there was now a fire in Mr. Stoorworm's liver, Mr. Stoorworm opened his mouth, blah, panic. And that was how Assipattle was able to escape. Mr. Stoorworm was in so much pain, moving around in agony. This sea dragon was so big, though, that it thrashed so much that it got some of itself hooked and stuck on the moon. When it slipped off the moon, Mr. Stoorworm fell, and this moved Norway, moved Sweden away from Finland, and as it wiggled around, Stoorworm's teeth fell out, and those became the Orkney Isles, also part of the Shetland Islands, along with the land of Faroe, or the Faroe Islands, another isle. As Mester Stoorworm was dying, he curled up into a knot and became Iceland. All of the volcanoes in this part of the world are evidence of Mester Stoorworm still burning. Assipattle and the Princess Gem de Lovely were married, and the kingdom was very happy to have the sea dragon, Mester Stoorworm, dead, even though he moved countries. So yeah, someone for Scotland, let me know if that was like a story you knew growing up or some shit. I don't know. I've never heard it, and it was a lot of fun to read. And come on, Princess Gem de Lovely, I'd fight for her too. Other Euro dragons of note. Italy has a goddess named Sybil, and she is guarded by a half man, half serpent that goes by the name of Mako. The Greeks had a cult of serpent gods. Other Portuguese myths is that of a female dragon named Coca, who battled St. George on Corpus Christi holiday. I don't really know what that holiday is. I should have looked it up, so my bad. And let me know if I'm wrong about any of that. That battle symbolized either good or bad harvest. Now, St. George does defeat Coca by cutting off her tongue and ears. So, would that be a good harvest? In 1250, there is a story of a Swiss knight named Heinrich von Winkelried, who went to kill a dragon. This is in 1250. But he died from the dragon's poisonous blood. In 1640, a professor of natural science at the University of Bologna, probably Bologna, not Bologna, he stated that he saw dragons fly around Africa and would see them often fighting wild bulls and cows. In 1678, author German naturalist Athanasius Kircher described the dragon on Pilatus in Switzerland, who causes storms. Now, one of my favorite myths is that of Beowulf. I love Beowulf. I've never read the entire epic, but I've watched the movie so much. I love it. Now, in the epic of Beowulf, there was a dragon. A man living in Beowulf's area or kingdom was seen, in the epic of Beowulf, there was a dragon. Now, the legend goes that a man living in Beowulf's kingdom was running from his master. He did something to piss his master off, so he was running. Now, while on the run, he saw a cave and he went into hiding. Once this man was in the cave, he noticed that there was a giant walkway that seemed to just go on forever. The man walked into the cave and found an enormous pile of treasure. The treasure was guarded by a sleeping dragon. The man, knowing he needed to get the fuck out before the dragon woke up, gently took one gold cup from the pile of treasure and left. It wasn't long before the dragon woke up and instantly knew that there was something missing from his cave of wonders. The dragon tracked that man down like a bloodhound, but it wasn't before he set multiple homes and towns on fire. Now, I don't remember if the dragon eats the man who stole the one gold cup, but Beowulf does kill the dragon. But in the end, Beowulf was so wounded that he ended up passing also. So yeah, you don't know too much about Beowulf. It's very interesting. Great stories. And yeah, you guys, that was another dragon episode. Let me know what you think. Please go to Weird Mythic on all of my social media platforms. Don't forget to go and see or listen to Dead Letter. I have that promo earlier in the episode, and I have the link to that in my show notes. Let me know what you think about this episode in the comments or send me an email at weirdmythicpodcast@gmail.com. Would love to talk to anyone who has a paranormal story or an encounter with a cryptid. For sure, I would love to talk to somebody who has any sort of encounter with the cryptid. I am going to be on Studio Sinister podcast in a month, I believe. I have been part of the After Hours episode. I think it was the first one that they did a few weeks ago. So if nobody saw that on my Instagram story, then I'll just put in the show notes. If you want to check that out, go to YouTube, Studio Sinister. And I'm going to have at least one guest on the show within the next month. It is a friend from my friend from work. Her daughter wanted to check out the show and be on it, and she had some good ideas. And I was like, fuck yeah, girl, bring it. So again, go to my social media. Weird Mythic Podcast on Twitter. Weird Mythic Podcast on Instagram. Weird Mythic Podcast on YouTube. Weird Mythic on TikTok. And again, that email, weirdmythicpodcast@gmail.com. Bye.